All right. Hey, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to TokiTV. Thanks for being with us this Sunday. We have lots of faces on the screen today, and it makes me happy because I love all these people. Um, I'm Annette. I'm in New Mexico. It's very dry here. I was just telling the team our rivers are completely dry here, and so we're having a bit of a bummer moment with that. But I'm here in New Mexico, and so, we're all connected. Some people say, well, you're in New Mexico, like, you're not in Florida or Washington. Nope, I'm in the middle of the desert, but connected with all of you and our animal friends in the ocean. So thanks for being with us. Let's just go around the room and check in. I'll start with Deb Cruz, and then I'll let Deb Cruz pass it along.
Deb Cruz is hunkering down for the upcoming really, really warm weather. We've got heat advisories out for the next several days. We did get a little bit of rain a couple of days ago, but I think, like Howie said, it's like this much in months. So we'll see what happens. Go ahead, Peggy.
Hey, Deb. Hi, everybody. Great to be on the show. Thank you, and so excited to hear what's going to be presented today by Jennifer and Joe about trees. It's really important. I would like to share that there are 893 tree or plants, flowering plants, listed as endangered under the threat of the Endangered Species Act. So we really need to motivate on that. And I just wanted to share a brief, and then I'll share a little bit more at the end. But I was able to collect 17 art letters yesterday at a little 3.5-hour art workshop that I organized. And I hope that other people will consider doing the same, because let's rally. Let's do this. Look at these incredible pieces. Oh my gosh. This one woman just showed up with her own marker pens and created these beautiful pieces with marker. I guess it's special artist markers or something, and wrote messages on each one. So I'll talk more about it at the end. And thank you for having me.
It's always good to have you here, Peggy. Let's check in with Brandy. Brandy, how's it going?
Hey everyone, it's good to be here. I'm out here in the Sailor Sea myself, and Deb, I know it's warm. I'm sitting out back right now. It's been really warm the past couple of days, but it's beautiful, and I am facing this beautiful forest filled with poplar and cedar trees. So this couldn't be more fitting. I'm so excited to be here and to hear what our guests have to say today. So thank you. Great seeing all your faces.
Thanks for being here, Brandy. Howard, what's happening where you are?
Well, it's a big blue cloudless sky. I'm a few miles south of Deb and a few miles north of Joe, and so we're all under pretty much the same sky, I guess. And it's pretty much the same all the way across the Southwest. It's warm and dry. That's about all I can say. Otherwise, things are still growing. I'm keeping about a couple of hundred native plants alive on the fringes of our yard here to try to regenerate some vegetation around here. And out at the Big Salmon Ranch on the Elwha, we're making some plans to build a huge salmon restoration project out there coming up that I can talk about later. So let's pass it on to Marcia.
Well, thank you, Howard. I'm doing my own hunker in here. I would love to send you people some rain. It's every day we're getting inches and inches of rain. It's ridiculous. So things are just off balance. But I'm so excited to talk about, speaking of weather, these trees. And, Jennifer and Joe have been fighting on the forefront of this fight. And I think it's the topic that, people love trees, but making a connection to trees and habitat and ocean seems to not be, something that people think about a lot. And so the health of cetaceans, orcas, they're really balanced on the health of these trees and the number of these trees. So it's just a passion point, and I want to just honor both you, Jennifer, and you, Joe, that be here today and for the fight you've been doing. So I'm really excited to hear and how other people can pitch in and help and collaborate. So thank you for being here today, both of you.
That's really awesome. Let's check in with you, Joe. I got just a year on mute.
No, I'm not muted. I'm happy to be here today. I'm really glad that Jennifer's your guest. It's something that's really important that I think we're all talking about. And you know, it's interesting because at first I didn't think that TokiTV was necessarily the place, but really it is. I think it's a wonderful venue for Jennifer to tell her story. I'm working on, I'm getting ready to go to Alaska for some humpback whale work with Fred Sharp that I know Howard knows about. And also helping to put together some fundraiser for some work that's a really interesting thing that Marcia is working on. It'll take place in October. And yeah, I wish that I would have thought to just stay out on my back deck and do this instead of being in my basement, so I can be out with all the trees behind me as well.
I'm so glad that you're here, Joe. Thank you. And you always bring fabulous guests. And I do think this is a great venue for Jennifer. Jennifer, for those who don't know, Jennifer Godfrey is a symphony musician and environmental advocate focusing on the interconnectivity between trees, stormwater, and southern resident killer whales. She filed the citywide orcas and trees appeal of the One Seattle Plan environmental impact statement. The case is currently in the Washington State Court of Appeals. So Jennifer, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you all for all of the amazing work that you've been doing and continue to do. I'm going to give a presentation if that's okay. And I could start with a little bit about me. I grew up in Florida, going on field trips and volunteering with a rescue rehab release facility that was mostly focusing on dolphins, sea turtles, seabirds, and also a native plant tree protection education program, learning, how we could be the biggest solution and not the biggest problem. They would explain in these presentations, why each animal was injured and how we could prevent future recurrences. So I was kind of surrounded by this interconnectivity early on. And when I was in the International Baccalaureate program, I tested with one of the highest worldwide scores in biology, but at the time I decided that my brain would outlast my connective tissue. So the time for doing the music was now, while I was, winning competitions, and then I could go back into sciences later. But here we are. So I ended up going to the free version of Juilliard and then came to Seattle in '99. So, perfect. Thank you. So I first met the Southern residents in 1999, seeing them surrounded at very close range by more than 20 boats, right up close. And it was a really powerful experience, seeing the babies being sent away while the adults were spy hopping, and I felt they were sending them away to safety. And I felt that they were fearful. And that time, Blackfish hadn't been out. I didn't know about the captures. So I've just been a long time plant and animal lover, worked for Forks Over Knives documentary, nutrition certificate, doing some mobile bat surveys that are the first done in Washington State. And I'm actually terrified of public speaking, but I do remind myself that whatever temporary discomfort or terror I feel is nothing compared to what the Southern residents live with every day. And I've spoken at city council several times now. And the most memorable one was on February 6th, when it was over 270 people came to that meeting, and somehow I was assigned number 73. And I didn't connect in the moment. I didn't even think about the number 73 at the moment until I was actually talking to Joe afterward. And he said, "Wait, you got number 73? I was that nervous. So and we could get to the second slide if possible. So in July of 2023, I was getting really frustrated with the lack of mature tree protection in the so-called tree protection ordinance in Seattle. And I wanted to show people the interconnectivity within the ecosystem. It's not compartmentalized or reductionist, and that we have a lot more to lose than these trees. So to show this interconnectivity, I used some reclaimed materials and made the 6'7" long, almost anatomically correct version of L25, Ocean Sun. And I brought her to a tree event for a tree called Luma. And she lived on the fence there for about 3 weeks. She got in a bunch of newspapers. And then I decided to make Toki, to have a pair. And she was actually the hardest one to make. And she's in the top left photo. Right now, she's at an art exhibition. She was the hardest one to make because of the Florida sun glare on her, her photos and the body positions in that tiny pool. It was really hard to get good imagery of. It was tough. So I ended up making also L128, J61, J62, who have, they've been at tree protests, art shows, city council, Pacific Northwest Climate Week. And I can't help but imagine that Toki would want her family to be happy and healthy. So we can go on to the next slide. Sorry. And these are some other, that top left photo, that's where Toki and L25 are at the same event together. And okay, and maybe the next slide, please. Thank you. So in April 2024, I was shocked to find that the last 73 critically endangered southern resident killer whales were excluded from Seattle's environmental impact statement on the 20-year growth plan, the comprehensive plan. It read, the only ESA listed or state listed species known or expected to use the city as habitat are fish. And I just couldn't believe this. So I kept searching the document over and over again, like for orca, whale, zero hits. Later, this language was actually changed to something even worse, which is hard to imagine. So I'm very grateful to a dear biologist friend for pointing me toward NOAA's Southern Resident Killer Whale Recovery Plan, which asks for highest population areas on Puget Sound to take greater measures to reduce polluted runoff. And at first we had hoped these were enforceable laws, but unfortunately they are recommendations. But despite this not being law, shouldn't Seattle want to follow recommendations written by top experts for such beloved critically endangered species? Next slide, please. Thank you. So around when J35 lost her second female calf, the Office of Planning and Community Development not only omitted the southern residents from the draft environmental impact statement, they added language to the final environmental impact statement saying that on the screen is managing habitats in the city to maintain wildlife populations in numbers comparable to past estimates is not feasible due to damage caused by Euro-American colonization. That's a paraphrasing. The actual sentence was much longer. It made lots of references to, the GMA and building, and basically that it sounded to me like they're not interested in the recovery plan. And to me, I don't think that makes continuing past damage okay. And how can we justify continued damage to some of the most important parts of the natural world and most important to people who are actually indigenous to this land? I can't imagine how that must feel for them. So I've learned a lot about stormwater since then. And if the next slide, please. So Seattle differs from other West Coast cities in many ways, even though a lot of the developers feel that we should be the same in their view. We're in what's known as the Pacific Temperate Rainforest. We're on a semi-enclosed body of water, and we have the only endangered orcas in the world using this as habitat part-time. At Puget Sound, it's semi-enclosed, so that means, I'm sure you all know this, that it takes longer for pollutants to disperse, partly due to the sills, the underwater hills at Admiralty Inlet and Tacoma Narrows. And unlike a lot of these other cities that developers want to emulate, we're not just on open waters, which would disperse pollutants more quickly. And as we know, the southern residents face many threats, lack of prey, vessel noise, water pollution. And this is not the time to be increasing their pollutant load. or the salmon's pollutant load when they're clearly, struggling. And we're not, I fully support the removal of the dams. That is so important. But I also know that while we're working on that, we should not be increasing the pollution in the water because it does harm their Chinook. And we've probably all seen that, a new paper was released by a transboundary panel of 31 scientists, also agreeing that they need less pollution and not more, amongst, and affirming all of the recovery plan threats. And there's also a recent study on contaminants of emerging concern regarding Chinook, showing that some of these chemicals are more prevalent than the ones that we've been previously focusing on. So the next slide, please. So it seems that the rate of deforestation of the Pacific temperate rainforest, which spans from Northern California all the way to BC, seems to parallel the decline in the southern resident killer whales, but I'm not saying this is the only reason for their decline. There are ecosystem consequences to converting a rainforest with what some would say is the highest standing biomass in the world down to something less than 28% canopy cover, replacing that with hardscape. And so on this slide on the left, we have the green is the old growth from the 1930s, and on the right, that's 2012 in the first, the picture on the left. And then the middle is the birth and the death rate of the southern residents. And the photo on the right is a map of the Pacific temperate rainforests. So when I saw that the southern residents were not included in the environmental impact statement, I was asking, person after person, how could this be? What can we do? Because I knew that the southern residents needed a seat at this table. Like, how could they be left out of an environmental impact statement? So Joe mentioned there was an appeal process a few days before the deadline. And so I decided to just file an appeal. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that they needed to be present for this conversation. They needed to be a part of this conversation. And so I asked the city to include stormwater impacts of radically increased tree removals on endangered species. And under the State Environmental Policy Act, the city of Seattle is required to review proposed actions for their potential to cause significant environmental impacts, such as an increase in pollution impacting threatened and endangered species. If there are impacts to the city is required to identify mitigation measures or determine what can't be mitigated. So my appeal was dismissed on questionable interpretations of SEPA, in my opinion, and several attorneys' opinions as well. We are fighting this unjust dismissal in the Court of Appeals. If we fail, the city's dismissal will likely be precedent-setting and remove the public's ability to challenge an inadequate EIS in the future. So now it's two things. We're fighting for the southern residents and to save our right to stand up for our own environment. And I'm very grateful and lucky to be working with an incredible longtime public interest attorney and an amazing team of scientists. So next slide, please. So who filters the water for marine mammals and the southern residents? And trees are powerful bioremediators. They reduce and filter polluted runoff. They are used and recommended by the King County Department of Natural Resources and Parks, the EPA, and the USDA. They'll even use them for toxic waste cleanup sites. And King County cites polluted runoff as the leading cause of water pollution in Puget Sound. So next slide, please. So even the most sophisticated wastewater treatment facilities in Seattle cannot remove most toxic chemicals. And on the left, you can see this is Seattle Times explanation of what exactly is happening at West Point, which is our most sophisticated water treatment facility or wastewater treatment facility in Seattle. So they remove solids, they put it through a sand filter, they have aeration, fermentation, and bleach, which is not going to take out, a lot of chemicals. There was a study not too long ago that showed a surprisingly high contaminant level from the effluent coming from two large-scale sewer treatment facilities on Puget Sound, but they didn't include West Point. But another thing to consider is that many storm drains actually release untreated water into the sound. So that the photo in the bottom middle is the stencils that City of Seattle gives out for people to go spray paint a message saying this goes straight into the sound. And many of the stormwater devices that are included on new construction are actually completely reliant on the homeowner to maintain. And they can be seen failing across the city. So a great water toxicologist takes pictures of these and sends them to me. So the 3 photos on the right with the red arrow, that's showing these people have just totally disconnected their stormwater processing device that came with their new home. So next slide, please. So size matters when it comes to trees. The sapling cannot replace the ecosystem services of a mature tree for over 25 years, typically. And they're not a 1-to-1 replacement or a 1-to-3, like even though the city code in Seattle often says, if you plant 3 little trees, you're good. You've covered it. You can cut down whatever you've cut down as long as you do that. But they're also not considering the survival rate of baby trees is quite low. And according to iTree, which is used by a lot of canopy cover assessment companies, a 60-inch Doug fir tree is going to absorb about 13,499 gallons of stormwater each year. And a 30-inch, half that, is not going to absorb half the stormwater. It's only going to do 5,458. And a 3-inch, which is the most common caliper size for a replacement tree, is only doing 296 gallons a year, which is about 5% of what the 30-inch is doing. So if you put together the 25-year gap plus the lower amount of these smaller trees, that leaves a really long gap in stormwater services. And I felt the city needs to think about this when we have critically endangered species surviving in this water. So on the next slide, there's one of my favorite quotes from the USDA. Bigger trees are like bigger straws, sucking up more contaminants much faster than smaller, slow-growing trees. And they also talk about how, bigger a tree grows, the harder it works to pull pollution from the soil and nearby water sources. So it makes sense to prioritize saving the bigger trees. Also, canopy and volume height is another factor why short deciduous trees that are also the most common replacement tree in Seattle are not replacing, one of our native large evergreen trees. You have the height, all those leaves are doing work, and the shorter tree is just not going to. They tend to be less ecologically beneficial, and they also clog storm drains with leaves. So at the photo on the right, I really love what your guest Derek said last week. This is their nursery. I thought that was a really powerful statement. So on the next slide, thank you. So how exactly do trees do this? How do they clean the water? They do it through 3 different ways. There's interception, transpiration, and infiltration. So interception is, what lands on the surface of the tree, the leaves, the needles, the bark, and it eventually evaporates off rather than turning into runoff on the ground. And transpiration is what the trees pull up from the soil, and they eventually release it through microscopic pores on the leaves as a gas. And infiltration, it's like the organic matter that collects around the tree plus the roots are basically slowing down and reducing the amount of runoff. So when we look at other cities on the next slide, Atlanta found that reducing canopy by 20% increased polluted runoff by 1 billion cubic feet. Portland found something that I find truly amazing. Trees over 20 inches in diameter contributed over 59% of the ecological benefit, despite only representing 13% of the canopy. So that really helps illustrate the power of a larger tree. Shoreline's canopy assessment showed that their canopy was absorbing 227 million gallons of stormwater runoff annually, resulting in 2 million in stormwater savings. Bellevue found 700 million gallons were averted, saving them $6.3 million in stormwater costs. So big trees are also low-cost stormwater infrastructure. Seattle's canopy cover assessment does not include stormwater data like our neighboring cities. Seattle also had a different canopy company finish the canopy cover assessment than the reputable one who started it. And they also omitted accurate private property canopy numbers lost to development. So on the bottom left, there's the QR code to an amazing article by Investigate West that can provide some insight on this. They found that some special interest groups threw a party to thank a previous Seattle City Council for giving them everything they wanted in the tree code, except for one thing. They joked, we got everything except one thing. And I feel like we cannot lose our most climate protective trees before realizing the value that they provide. And so on the next slide, since Seattle excluded their canopy data, stormwater data from the canopy assessment and the EIS, I decided to calculate the stormwater services provided by private property trees removed last year using the city's own data. So I looked up each tree's condition because iTree has 7 categories, and it relates to how much stormwater the tree would manage. So if the tree has a lot of leaves, it's going to be dealing with more stormwater, but if it has almost no leaves on it, it's, if it's dying. So I had to go through all the records, find out what the condition of this tree was, plug it into iTree with the address of the tree, and then add those all up. And iTree also has been found to be a more conservative calculator than the Washington State model. So this is actually a conservative number. And according to iTree, this is trees removed legally on private property, not including illegally removed trees, street trees, parks trees, unreported removals. These trees were absorbing and diverting 5.4 million gallons of stormwater just last year alone, which is more than I thought it would be. So on the next slide, we have, which I'm sure you all know this, but, trees cool salmon waterways even when they're not directly adjacent, just like they lower the urban heat island impact. Cooling the air and cooling the ambient air temperature also helps lower water temperatures. And according to another local water ecologist, trees help lower stream temperatures by cooling the pavement that the water runs over on its way to the waterways. And salmon do need those low temperatures to thrive. So on the next slide, what's in it for us? What's good for orcas? Unsurprisingly, is good for us. Living near trees has human health benefits. Urban trees, we have higher birth weights when pregnant people are living within 100 meters proximity to trees. This was done initially by Jeff Donovan at the USDA. It's been replicated 30 times since then. We also find lower rates of asthma, cardiovascular disease, non-accidental death, reduces the urban heat island effect. Seattle is ranking 4th in the nation for UHI right now, which tends to disproportionately impact lower income populations. And I feel it's unfair to expect them to purchase and power air conditioning units when trees could have been built around in the development with the same number of units and provide free life-saving shade. And this increased reliance on air conditioning will have climate and electrical grid impacts. So on the next slide, we can add housing without clear-cutting the last bit of rainforest, our water and air filtering and cooling trees, our lungs. It's not a mutually exclusive situation. We have the 330-300 concept. It's where you can see 3 trees from your home, 30% canopy, which is typically the number associated with ecosystem and human health, and 300 feet from a park. Many architects have found that you can build with nature with alternative, thoughtful site design, providing the same amount of housing, like Johnston Architects and many more. Maybe we build up instead of lot sprawl. So a lot of what they want to do right now is 6 luxury mansions on a lot that used to have just one home with a lot of green space left, which doesn't bode well for stormwater management. And, trees, having them interspersed throughout the city, since many of our storm drains are going straight to the Sound, or they're still, even if they go to West Point, they're not getting a lot of these toxic chemicals removed. So having trees interspersed is really better for the ecosystem. So I feel like the Southern residents are telling us they need more help, not more polluted runoff. And we have the choice to be the biggest problem or the biggest solution. I really feel like they're at our mercy with this. And I would love to help them by not increasing pollution when they need us to help them. And this is one of my favorite quotes that I read to City Council the day when I was number 73 from Dr. Giles, just saying that we really need to do something massively different. And so I would ask people to consider joining in my request for Seattle not to pave over orca recovery efforts. Ask City Council and Office of Planning and Community Development to follow the recommendations in NOAA's recovery plan, preserve their free water filters and coolers, do a real environmental impact statement that prioritizes our critically endangered species and aligns with the recovery plan, and probably thousands of scientific papers that all agree contaminated water is harmful to them and their Chinook. The City Council's writing comp plan amendments right now, which could go any direction at this point. It could allow 95% hardscape, clear cutting Seattle, depending on which voices, speak the loudest. And I'm happy to provide talking points. If people want to, keep informed about or more information about the EIS appeal, which will likely set precedent for future EIS appeals in Seattle. Somebody donated a website, thank you, that links to a petition. So we have a petition, we have an email that could be sent out, customize those so that they don't start dismissing them. And there's also a fundraiser for legal costs, and feel free to reach out with any questions. So thank you so much for allowing me to share that.
That's a ton of information, and you put that together so well. And you're speaking our language. You're speaking the Southern resident killer whales. For those of you that link, I don't know if you could put that back. Thank you. The www.orcaappeal.org, that takes you to the page that you're looking at here. And I just went ahead and want to share the screen so people can see. It talks about the plan, the harmful plan, and then the petition that you guys can just go ahead and click on that and then just sign right there. So that takes you to this page here. So definitely check that out. Thank you for ending with an action, Jennifer, because it's a ton of information, and then it's like, okay, well, what do we do? So you have that outlined for us as well. And yeah, so there you go, guys. Write that down. It's easy to remember if you don't have a pen. orcaappeal.org. Go back to this screen here. Let's have a discussion. I'm sure Howard and Peggy and Marcia have things to say, so let's go ahead and just open it up to have a conversation.
Well, I'm just
I'll
happy
start.
to see. Okay, go, Marcia.
Sorry. Jennifer, so for someone like me that lives many, many, many miles away, the action of writing to the city council, as someone that lives in Florida, is that something that they will even look at, or do I need to launder my statement through a Seattle person or something? Like, what's the best way people like myself can help other than the website?
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure how much they weight out of state comments. However, they rely, tourism is a big thing in Seattle, and the orcas, all of them are a big part of that tourism. They have it on all, the tourism documents everywhere. So I think they would listen. Maybe Joe has some other thoughts on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I think that tourism angle would be a good one. You know, there's always the threat to boycott Seattle, if you really want to take it that far. But yeah, I mean, there used to be salmon painted on those little stencils, and now they've upped it to be orcas, right? Because everybody loves orcas, and the city itself isn't doing anything. So I think writing a letter as someone who loves Seattle, loves to visit Seattle, but is disgusted with the way that the city is treating the orcas that then they're using to actually bring tourists in. I mean, point out the hypocrisy, things like that.
And do you guys have the name of the specific person, just the city council, which I can Google that?
I can send that to you. I meant to get that ready before this, but I did not get that prepared in time.
Okay.
I can send that to you. Anybody who wants that, I can send a sample, sort of a framework for talking points that you can edit and change up however you want, and then the list of emails. But there is a link. It's contact Seattle City Council.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm going to be on that.
And anybody who's listening, feel free to reach out. There's an email on my website, and I can send that to anybody who wants it. I'm sorry,
Awesome.
I didn't get that QR code ready for today.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, when you do have it, if you send it, and then I can actually link it to this comment so that people can come back to this, because it'll stay on Facebook and on YouTube, so people can have that link there. And then I was looking on the petition that it links to the petition, and I'm going through and I'm like, okay, so there's some top featured comments, but if you go to all comments, we need more, and like, way more than that. So don't just sign, folks. Please make a comment also, because I think that that's important, and it gives other people, they see other people making comments, and then it inspires them to make comments as well. So please do that. And Marcia, your question is great, because a lot of times it's like, what do we do? We're not there. But we all care about these orcas, and these, what happens to them happens to us. So I don't know, maybe a link through that as well. Just we're all connected. We're definitely connected to them.
Definitely.
Howard?
Hey, Howard.
Well, first, thank you, Jennifer. That was really, really informative. And I love the barcodes. I saved those, and they're really informative. And I'm going to look up all that information and apply it, because there's a lot of controversy about logging on the watershed of the Elwha right now. DNR has some really tough decisions to make right now, and they need someone to speak up for the trees and for the salmon and the orcas, and the trees are just so vital for that. And in answer to Marcia, I was just thinking, if you preface your letter with, you may live miles away, but your heart is with the southern residents here, and they need a healthy habitat. They need a healthy watershed. They need healthy water to live in. And if you sort of preface it that way and draw attention to the quality of the habitat for the wildlife, for the salmon and the orcas and everything else that lives here, then that's their concern. That should be the concern that they weigh their decisions on. So I'm sure that it would get attention, and I agree in it. We should be writing comments and just load up that comment page with concern for the orcas and what it will take to clean up the water and help them bring healthy young into the world, because that's their problem. Reproductive failure is the limiting factor in their population regrowth. So we've got to work on that. So yeah, there's lots to say. And again, Jennifer, this has been really informative and really helpful. It seems like just in the past couple of months, and Joe, you've been bringing this out about specific trees in your neighborhood that you're concerned about, that you're seeing go down or plan to go down. But I've just been seeing tree consciousness is somehow, rising to our awareness, to our the realm of what we care about. And it's like, it can't be just me. I'm seeing it in a lot of different places. So it's coming up in a lot of ways. And I think that is just so valuable. Somehow decades ago, the name tree hugger kind of, was inserted into our vocabulary as a pejorative, and it should not be, because tree huggers are the best humans. That could be a bumper sticker right there.
Love it. But it's true though, Howard. I just had lunch with my sister and brother-in-law like on Friday, I think it was, and here in the state capital here in New Mexico, they just took out these massive trees that are over 100 years old, and they did that because they didn't want to move the venue for Sosobra. So sorry, New Mexico, I'm calling you out. That's crap. And my brother-in-law was telling me about it, and he's not someone that I would consider to be a tree hugger, but people are becoming aware and the impact on that and what that does. It's not, these are living beings that are providing so much for us. So thank you for saying that, because it just sparked, like, we were just having this conversation. It's a big deal right now going on here, which I wouldn't have thought to have a conversation with him about it, but I'm glad I did. It just shows that it's impacting everyone.
I'll add, even on NPR this morning, there was a short piece about tree removal in San Antonio to supposedly remove the trees so they could protect the riverbank by shoring it up. Because, San Antonio River is all channeled, so that they could then protect the trees in the future. And anyway, there's a lawsuit to try to stop that.
Well, I hope they're able to stop it. And, just here in our state, there wasn't even the opportunity. That's the big problem. So they're going to have some lawyers looking into that for sure. Peggy?
Jennifer, for your rather thorough presentation. You've done a lot of research, and it's really great that you presented a lot of information, especially to the decision makers. I would like to add a few things. So regarding the direct messages, direct emails to the recipient named on your petition, that would, like, get people to write real letters. I'd say, especially if they're constituent. I'm just like a real strong advocate of real letters, or at least emails directly to that person besides this petition. And there's all the sample points that are already laid out that you can add to your webpage and say something, make a direct email or phone call to this person, especially if you're a constituent. From what I've experienced. And I'd like to add, it's kind of a surprise that people still haven't understood the value, the ecosystem services of trees. Some people are horrified about, as well as me, about the deforestation going on in the Amazon, the lungs of the earth. They are everywhere. They're not just in the Amazon, they're also in Seattle. And when approaching the Seattle Council, we could also try to get a positive note in, like, how about Seattle turning it around and saying, how about Seattle becoming the city of trees, or some kind of thing where they can emphasize that they're preserving old trees because of all the good things they do, and maybe something like that. Is that
that would be amazing if they did. Technically we're called the Emerald City.
Yeah, there you go. So maybe just, like turning it into this thing where they have this opportunity to show that they care about the environment and that trees are such an essential part, and come and enjoy our trees, and places where they're protected. And one of the things that also came to mind was the list of 137 species dependent on Chinook salmon. And thanks for putting that up, Annette. So you can see there's all different sorts of animals there's not any plants listed. I guess, it's kind of sometimes, like, yeah, these are all living animals. But as I said earlier, under the Endangered Species Act, there are 893 plants. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of those happen to be trees that some of these species depend on. Trees are incredible for, as you're saying, as you already described, but also they are the homes of various species. So, birds, insects, sometimes bats, owls. I don't know if there's any pileated woodpeckers around Seattle, but
Oh yeah.
they're an awesome sight. They need to say, hey, check out our pileated woodpeckers. Because some various species that depend on these old trees.
Yeah.
So
Thank
that's
you.
my 10 cents. So thank you so much.
I'm gonna put this back
being
up.
involved in this.
I'm going to put this back up, and for those who have not or don't have this, go ahead and let me make the comment down real quick. Go ahead and take a screenshot of that, or take a picture with your phone if you don't have that handy, because that's something you should have handy. That's a massive talking point right there, right? When you're looking at saving the Chinook and all that are affected. So thanks for sending that over again, Peggy.
Yeah,
Brand?
sure. And credit goes to Christina Mully, and what was the other? Was it Backbone Campaign or somebody, an organization that put that, also was involved in putting that list together?
And Damn Sense has one out too.
Okay, yeah. So I don't want to take credit for it. I just want to make sure that people who worked hard for these things worked on that. And yeah, and again, endangered species, including trees. I'm sure there's some on that list. I can
Sorry to laugh. Look at Rita's comment. Call the movement Triaddle. That's awesome.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, really, the city of Seattle can realize that they have a treasure, an asset in these trees, and so maybe also approaching them in that way and saying, you have this incredible asset of trees that are 100, 200 years old that people can just admire because they're so valuable.
Awesome.
So.
Brandy?
Well, am I unmuted? Yeah, I'm unmuted now. But thank you so much, because that is the whole thing about that interconnectedness and how all these different systems are connected. Because here in BC, same thing. There's like, I'm on the coast. I'm on the Sunshine Coast, so there's more of that natural element. But the city, it's just they're building, and all that runoff is going somewhere. And with the Puget Sound being the way it is, they were already dealing with boat pollution and illegal dumping, and then taking away the trees. It's just like compounded. So it's like we need to start somewhere, and it's so wonderful that people like Howard, like you said, we are becoming aware. It's like all coming together, and people are being like, okay, we need to preserve what we have and save, and save what we have, because once it's gone, right? And we always talk about that. So I love the presentation. I took pictures of all the QR codes, and I'll be doing the same thing as Howard. I'm going to be going down and, looking at everything. So thank you so much. It was super informative. I just loved it.
So I want to see a comment from, let's see, 38 people who are watching right now. I want to see 38 comments before the end of the day. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's get your voices out there for sure. And many people will watch the replay of this after. So if you're watching after, you're not off the hook. You have to go put a comment as well, or write a letter.
So over the next couple of weeks, I think, starting September 6th through the 20th, there's going to be Cecilia, which is the organization under Jay Julius, as Illumination member. There's going to be a totem pole journey along with several, I think 10 masks that Jewel James has been carving. And that's going to be going on a journey around the area. So keep an eye out for that. And a big chunk of that particular campaign is addressing our trees and our sacred relationships to those trees.
Oh, wow.
So keep an eye out for that. And also, I don't know if you want to put that flyer up now or if you want to wait till later.
No, put it up.
Oh, wow.
So see, this is Theo was with us a couple weeks ago. The young artist and who did the calendar. This is the book that she was talking about.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Beautiful.
very cool.
Nice.
That's pretty.
So that's coming up on August 23rd, Friday Harbor, for those of you in the area. And I'm looking for, oh, there it is. And then there's the link for the Way of the Mask campaign that's coming up.
Thank you.
Lots of good stuff coming up. And I love it because it's all like we support each other, right? And everybody we support it's all helping our southern residents. It's all helping Toki's family. And so we're all connected in this cool web, and it all matters. And so as much as you guys can do, I know sometimes it can get overwhelming. We're like, do this and go to this and check this out. But it's cool, right? I mean, because there are people doing something. So there are actions to take. So take all of them. That's my suggestion. Take all the action. Before we check in on Peggy's action, Jennifer, is there anything you want to leave us with regarding like any other way we can help support you, or do we just keep checking the Orca Appeal website? Is that the best way to keep updated and how we can continue to support?
Probably. So the website was actually donated to me, so I don't actually control it. But the Instagram is probably gets updated more frequently.
Okay.
Yeah, I think sharing the information, and I want to empower people to, help. I didn't know the difference in ecosystem services from a large tree to a small tree, and the time gap that it would take for, because I'm all for tree planting, just to clarify, but the time gap plus the difference in ecosystem services really leaves a huge ecological gap, and that's, and I know sometimes trees need to come down when they're not healthy, but I hope that can become more common knowledge when people think about tree planting. And yes, so yeah, sharing the information, sharing the fundraiser. If I know there's so much going on, so but if that would be helpful, because there are some costs involved with the legal process. So.
What's the name of the Instagram? I was trying to look it up. What's the name
So
of
was I can't find, I don't know how to find it. The Instagram URL.
Oh, or do you know what the name of it is?
Oh, Orca Nexus is what I picked, just because when I filed the appeal, someone said you need to have a group name. You can't just be you. And so I was scrambling to just, create. Yeah.
Orca Nexus. Okay, I got it.
I just found it now too. Okay, very cool. Yeah. I'm gonna follow there. So let me put that up.
And it's normally attached to the website. It might be temporarily detached, but it'll be on there at the bottom.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I'm typing away so I can get it posted up. Joe, what are you going to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I wanted to clarify, I think, maybe. So Jennifer, you're doing this all on your own. I mean, you have a team of people, lawyers and scientists and stuff to help, but as far as the finances go, you're bearing all of this yourself. Is that right?
Yes.
So that fundraiser, I mean, anything that people can do to help with that, that's helping to offset money that's coming out of Jennifer's pocket. And
awesome.
It's to me, when I've never watched your full presentation like this, and it was incredibly impressive. Looks like you're halfway to getting a PhD in ecosystem sciences right now, because that's a hell of a lot of things to learn. And you obviously know them really well. So so you've been doing all this work on your own, and learning and presenting it to people, but also bearing the thank you for putting that up. Yeah.
Yep. And that's, again, if you go to the orcaappeal.org and you scroll down, you'll be able to see the donate now button as well. So please do that if you can. Every little bit helps, I'm sure. The more people you share, the more people that have the opportunity to contribute. And a lot of people out there want to contribute to this kind of stuff and they don't know how. So if you can contribute financially, that's one beautiful way to be able to help support. If you feel stuck, but you can donate a few dollars or a lot more than that, feel free to do so, because it all helps, like Joe said. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and there is a nonprofit that has offered to process larger, if somebody really, really needs it to be tax deductible, they have offered to do that. So if somebody, wants to donate, but they don't feel comfortable doing it through the GoFundMe, they could email me. And I also would just like to say, people who are comfortable, if they're not doing okay, I don't want them donating. I want people to be all right. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being responsible about that. And some people do, like they can't get out there and do it. They're not from there, right? So, and if they can contribute, then great. There's another great way to do it. And if you can't, write a letter, sign a petition, do something, just do something.
And if anybody, would like to speak at city council, but maybe feels unsure of the process, because I was absolutely mortified before I started going. If anybody has any questions about that or wants help, there's no question that's too, there's no bad question that it doesn't bother me at all if they want to reach out for help like that.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Thank you. All right, Peggy.
So I'd like to add a couple more pieces of advice, maybe for Jennifer to consider for your event. You might even want to have like a little letter writing station where people will have sample comments to refer to, and just handwrite a postcard or something, and have it already pre-addressed to that person, that council member.
Cool.
So,
thank you.
Yeah. And I think that's it on that end. But just if it's all right to go ahead and talk about the Endangered Species Act and the Marine Mammal Protection Act.
Go for it.
No more comments on Jennifer's important tree work?
Just here's how easy it is to sign the petition.
Okay.
There, I signed.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Great. All right.
So I just wanted to share. This is I printed this out from our webpage, which I also included the link to. The urgency of defending the Marine Mammal Protection Act and the Endangered Species Act. So crucial. Our southern resident orcas are listed as endangered. The Chinook salmon, many areas where the Chinook are found, they're listed endangered. If this series of amendments gets passed, it will weaken protections for our southern resident orcas, for our Chinook salmon, and for so many, like I said, there are 743 animal species, 893 plant species listed on the endangered species page for the United States. I'd like to share this one here. It's a piece of art that I started to share about at the beginning. She chose one of we have many talking points, and she shared one of our talking points and created this beautiful orca. And the most crucial sentence down here, I urge you to oppose this dangerous legislation and defend the Marine Mammal Protection Act and Endangered Species Act as they stand. And so if anybody can write a few sentences and send a powerful art message, that will have a really tremendous impact. And we have all the information on our webpage about what's happening, sample comments, and how to find your representative and senator, and just send off these messages. As I mentioned, I hosted an art event yesterday, and everybody who's inclined to do something like that, let's go contact your local library and find out if they can fit in this little program of of educating people about the marine mammals and endangered species and how they need to be protected, because this law is under most ever in 50 years serious threat of being gutted. So we need those laws in place for our southern resident orcas and for polar bears and Chinook salmon. All, you know, it's all connected, and we need to really step up and defend them. So I proposed to Annette that perhaps on the 24th we have a little art making party. But we'll see. I guess Annette and I need to discuss that and see if that's going to happen or not. Schedules and all that sort of thing. So
Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
good. I think we have someone on that date, but maybe that
Sorry?
following. I think we have someone scheduled that date, but maybe that following.
Yeah, Ryan Michael.
Yeah, we could do that.
I'll discuss that with you. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And then a couple other things coming up, Howard. So next week, you guys, as we know, it'll be 2 years since Toki went home to her family, and not the way that we planned, but she did make that journey home to her family. And so the 17th is next Sunday. We will be taking some time that day to honor Toki and her life and her family. I mean, I feel like we do that. That's why we keep doing the show, is in her legacy and her and honor. And next week will be special, and we'll probably have a few different folks that you're not used to seeing on screen come on just to say a few words, and we'll spend some time to acknowledge what actually happened on the 17th,
Right.
2 years ago, which was her
Yeah.
family calling her home and showing us what they were doing in front of the lime kiln live stream.
Excellent.
And so
Thank
we'll
you.
be doing some of that as well, and talking about that. So please join us next week. Next week will be special, and yeah, it's always good to take time to honor her, and we won't forget. We won't forget what we did as humans, and what we're going to continue to do as humans to try to turn that around. So please join us next week. Howard, you got something coming up on the 30th. You want to tell us about that?
On August 30th, yes, we're going to have the opening debut presentation of the Toki's Legacy exhibit at the Langley Whale Center, which will be an interactive, big screen journey into the life of Toki and of her family, the southern residents. It's under construction right now, so I don't even know what all it's going to have, but it's going to be beautiful. Marcia will give a little talk there, and I will, and it should be an amazing event, and just kind of a heartwarming remembrance of Toki, because she has affected our lives so much, and rightfully. And Raynell will be giving a remote presentation after the event. Yeah, right.
Very cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Susan. So Raynell right now is in Key West, and in about an hour and a half, they'll be screening Resident Orca there in Key West. So, continuing to tell her story. Education, man, education is key, and awareness. So thank you, Raynell, for doing that. And Alma is out there supporting that and making that happen. So you all know Alma is a powerhouse. And so I have no doubt that it's going to be a great event and opportunity for people to ask. Because at the end of that, I mean, you really are left with just like these presentations, right? Like, what can I do? What can I do? And there's things you can do. So thank you, Raynell, for continuing to take Toki's story out there and sharing that and being able to be available for questions and answers afterwards. And because you really are left with that. When we did the screening in Santa Fe here, I mean, everyone was, what do we do? What do we do? How can we help? So Center for Whale Research, Orca Network. I mean, there's people doing the work, and we got to continue to work to save her family. CDOC Society with Dr. Giles, some amazing people out there. So keep sharing, guys. Keep doing the work. Jennifer, thank you again so much. keep us updated. If there's a breaking event or something that you want to share, just hop on. We do that with Peggy sometimes, just if there's something new or you add something to what you're doing or you think of something else that people can do, hop on anytime and come tell us and we'll do it.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Joe, you want to talk about the concert in October? Marcia just asked if you don't mind to say a couple things about that. Oops, you're muted. You're muted, Joe. All over it. One more time.
It's all right. I wasn't really saying anything. I was just moving my lips. No, I said Marcia, I'm sorry. I don't have the name of the event immediately in front of my face, but it's the cantata, the Cetacean Cantata, and she's working with Fred West, who started the orca sing back in 1998 originally on kayaks. So Marcia is working with Fred to compose this concert that will take place on October 18th, and Marcia will be here. We want to get other NGOs on board. We haven't talked to them yet, but to have, again, action items that people can take. So it's going to be a story of Toki and the story of the Southern residents done through art and music, and then with action items that people can take to help the Southern residents.
Thank you, Joe. TokiTV.
And there's a fundraiser for that now to commission to get the musicians and the artists and everything.
Awesome. All right. We'll share more on that as the weeks come as well, guys. Just so everyone's aware and can get their tickets or whatever that is that they need to do, or how they can support the fundraiser. We'll share that. TokiTV.
Yeah, and I think tickets are probably not going. They probably won't be available until the end of September or early October. But there's a fundraiser now for for building the thing.
Really cool. But a lot of folks, you gotta get your plans, get your tickets, especially if you're flying out like some of us are for that. So we look forward to that. I think Peggy fell out off of there, but Jennifer, again, thank you so much for all that you do, and please come back on and keep us updated on what's going on.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
thank you,
having me,
Jennifer.
and thank you for everything that you all do. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon. Howard, if you can stay on. Bye, guys.
Bye.